Hello my friends. In our last video, we got to chat a little bit about the camouflage pattern on this jacket here, Splittertarnmuster. But a lot of folks in the comments were asking about the jacket itself. So today we're going to take a quick look at the history behind this piece of kit. Germany's answer to the brutal Russian winter. Our story starts back in the summer of 1941 with the German invasion of the Soviet Union, Operation Barbarossa. Now, whether it was naivete, overconfidence, a little bit of xenophobia, or probably a combination of each, the powers that be in Germany were sure that this new campaign in the East would be over by the winter of that year. And as our history books tell us, my, how wrong they were. Come December of 1941, the Germans are just 15 miles outside Moscow. Their blitz across the Russian steppe has made unbelievable progress, but now they're facing a new enemy. As fall turns to winter, the temperature in Russia begins to plummet. Temperatures pretty quickly reach as far as negative 40 degrees below zero, and the German army is simply not prepared for this. Most regular infantrymen only have their standard wool field uniforms, and men are quite literally freezing to death. Some troops are lucky enough to have watch coats or overcoats specifically designed for long periods out in bad conditions, but these are essentially just another layer of wool. The situation gets so bad that men are stuffing their clothing with newspaper, with hay, with straw. They're pulling whatever they can off both Soviet and German casualties. And the Wehrmacht goes as far as to establish the Winterhilfswerk, or Winter Relief Organization, for folks back home to donate winter clothing that can be shipped to the troops fighting in the East as quickly as possible. This is clearly not sustainable, but the German army does manage to hold on through this first winter and make it to the spring thaw in 1942. So now they've got to act fast. The Wehrmacht takes two clear steps towards solving this winter weather problem. First, they issue a handbook to all troops on how to operate in winter warfare. And this is full of tips for keeping your clothing dry, avoiding frostbite, etc. And that's all fine and dandy, but it still doesn't solve our clothing issue. What the German armaments industry does is reach out to a man by the name of Josef Neckermann, a very successful clothing manufacturer in Germany. And they ask him and his company, Textilwarenhaus Neckermann, to come up with a new winter uniform for German troops. Coincidentally, Josef Neckermann's younger brother is actually in the military, he's stationed in Russia, and he writes home to Josef with recommendations for what the troops desperately need on the Eastern Front. So what Josef Neckermann ends up coming up with is what's called the Winteranzug, or winter suit. He does some extensive testing in cold chambers back in Germany. He sends some samples to Finland to take the uniform through its paces. And eventually the winter suit is approved and enters production for 3 million units in April of 1942. When the new winter suit arrives in Russia ahead of the winter of 42, it is a tremendous improvement on what they had prior. The suit comes with an insulated jacket, like the one that I'm wearing now, a matching set of insulated pants, suspenders, thick mittens, internal leg warmers, and a pair of special snow boots. And everything is weather resistant and treated with a special waterproofing chemical called Opinol. These uniforms are also fully reversible, with one side in solid snow white camouflage like you see here, and the other side in the standard field gray. Now, these new winter suits are very well received by the German troops in the field. These are highly sought after pieces of kit. But unfortunately, there just aren't enough of them to go around. Priority is given to frontline combat troops, but even so, we still see a lot of images from the Battle of Stalingrad and other major engagements where most of the infantrymen pictured are still only kitted out in standard field uniforms and greatcoats. Despite the difficulty fulfilling demand, Germany continues to produce as many of these winter uniforms as possible through until the end of the war. In 1943, new versions of the Winteranzug come out that are white on one side and feature Splittertarn camouflage on the other, like the version that I am wearing right now. And later in 1943-44, another version comes out in white and Sumpftarn, or swamp camouflage. And these are distributed to Wehrmacht troops on both the eastern and western fronts as the war goes on. Worth noting here, when the seasons would change and these heavy winter uniforms would no longer be required, they were usually turned in and refurbished and reallocated as necessary when winter came around again. So while these winter uniforms were originally issued as full sets, towards the end of the war, you'd often see mixing and matching going on. Sometimes you might see the field gray pants with the Splittertarn jacket, for example. In general, the Winteranzug is seen as one of the best examples of specialized winter equipment developed and used during the Second World War, though they still had some downsides. These were reportedly still pretty heavy to move around in, which I can vouch for. This is pretty thick. And apparently if they did get wet and fully soaked through, they took forever to dry. So, there you have it. A quick look at the Winteranzug from World War II. If you'd like to check out this high quality reproduction of the winter uniform jacket or the reference material that I used for this research, I'll have links to both down in the description below. So thank you very much, my friends. Cheers.